All right, so here we are. I want to talk about this clip that Flying Steps uploaded the other day of an interview with Phil Wizard talking about how this current generation lacks authenticity, self-expression, and creativity. I know over the past 4 to 5 years, a lot of the older members in the community have been complaining that this current generation of breakers lacks creativity and sort of the creative skills and the brains to make interesting, unique styles. Now, I want to go into a deep dive as to why this might be and how things came to be, as well as what we might expect from the breaking scene in the next 3 to 4 years in terms of being original and original approaches to breaking. I think this is sort of an iceberg, and it goes very, very deep in my opinion, and it's very easy for people to see what other people are doing in different countries and different scenes, and very easy to take influence and inspiration from one another. Over here in Australia, I could very much easily look at clips from the latest jam in Florida or the latest jam in California, and it'd be very easy for me to copy the styles of breaking and the steps and the patterns that people are doing over there. So I want to do a deep dive into what the hell's going on, because I'm very curious to see how things came to be.
Going back to what I said before, I think it's about finding individual styles as opposed to following trends. And this is not just a problem here, but a problem generally in breaking. People are starting to follow certain individuals too closely. And I can say in Germany, for example, it comes all the way down to even the way people dress when they compete. Mm-hmm. They follow certain individuals.
Everyone's got their Arc'teryx beanie or their Gulp Core windbreaker with the jeans combo. I think this is popular, not even in breaking, but just in fashion in general. Like, I think people just dress like this on the streets. And I think maybe it's a push for breaking and the style of breaking fashion to be more in line with mainstream fashion in general.
And I have no problem naming this. There's a crew in Poland that a lot of people dance like here. It's called Cool Kids Mobs. And as well, there are breakers like Stripes and Robb and Style Invaders. And I think a lot of...
Cool. So someone finally said it. Someone finally said the source of the current influence of this generation that we have now. Europe, Poland, Cool Kids Mob, Style Invaders, Stripes, Sweet Technique, and you can say Flipside Kings as well, are probably the key players in sort of the people who influenced the current generation of the breaking community, in my opinion, in Europe at least.
Of Europe in general, everyone kind of looks like that now. The problem for me judging yesterday is everyone looks the same to me. Everyone is dancing very similarly, so it's not interesting to watch. Because dancing is about being individual and finding your own way, but people are following too much of what they want to look like or what they think will win or what's cool, as opposed to...
I mean, I think that's kind of the point, though, that people would naturally want to gravitate towards what will win and what will make them more accepted within the breaking community, and within sort of the general scope of having a style and the general scope of expression. I think maybe people just want to be relevant.
So people are not being authentic anymore, right? And the best dancing, not just breaking, but the best dancing, because the root of dance is self-expression. That is the root of art. It is the root of dance. And I think people are forgetting it. And so as the next generation, learn to express, learn to find authentically how you want to dance, not following trends. And you can find inspiration from people. That's part of it. Of course, you can be inspired from people, and it's good to be inspired by people, but you have to mold that into your own way.
I mean, I think Phil is a good example of someone who obviously was able to refine their craft. I mean, Phil is definitely like a very, very rare example. I mean, like, the dude is sponsored by Red Bull and Olympic gold medalist. So of course it's like his job to do this. It's his job to be self-expressive, authentic, and it's his job to be original. So, I mean, it's kind of easy for him to say, you know, not a lot of us are blessed to be able to like be in the lab 24/7. But I mean, he makes a good point, and Phil Wizard being Canadian, I think definitely has something to do with this for sure. By the way, everyone is also taking their stuff from Canada too,
as opposed to just following it like a cookie cutter kind of way. And I think there was too much of that yesterday for me. I actually think the B-girls were a lot more interesting to watch, because there's a lot more diversity in the B-girls than there are in the breaking, like the B-boys.
And I think this sort of leads down into a rabbit hole as to what the hell's going on in our scene. I want to help paint a picture as to what things look like now and what things might look like in the future. Let's start here with Phil Wizard. Let's have a look at some of the Red Bull Germany footage, and we'll see who specifically is copying who, and we'll see what trends are sort of happening in the scene. Phil Wizard was also a judge at Red Bull Germany, so I want to see who he specifically put through the prelims in addition to the judges as well, because I also feel like he is now a gatekeeper as to what is considered original creative and self-expressive. Remember, I feel like we have to think about the definitions of creativity, and we have to think about who is defining what creativity means. First suspect is this top 16 battle. We have Light up against Linus. I'm going to play this battle for a couple of minutes, and maybe we can all take a guess as to who the culprit is and who the culprit might be copying. Right, so Light's looking pretty solid. He's got good power, but obviously nothing extremely original, but his form is quite unique and very strong. Right. Okay. So we can definitely see a little bit of fray sweet technique influence here. Has the same sort of dress style, the windbreaker with the track pants and the shoes. Yeah, it kind of has that promo flair type of flow. Misdirection and going the opposite way, what have you. Sweet technique enjoyer in the chat. Yep. Definitely some Cool Kids Mob flow. The inside halo. That inside halo is definitely like one of the moves of all time. With the flag freeze as well, very European. Yeah. This guy also kind of copying Cool Kids Mob maybe. But I think this is a new look for the European scene, to be honest. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I actually do kind of like that this new generation of breakers, even though they're unoriginal, as some people might claim to be, I think they're pretty cool. Like, they're dressed pretty fresh and they have a lot of edge to them, which I think is sort of interesting that we didn't really see much of in the past. Two more Cool Kids Mob enjoyers in the chat. So far we have Cool Kids Mob enjoyers and we have a Sweet Technique fan as well. So obviously Canada and Poland making their impact on the German scene. You can kind of see it in this guy as well. I think it's the fashion really, like the beanie with the windbreaker, with the pants, super baggy pants, with the inside halo, with the flag freeze. Now, I do believe that Germany actually has its own class of pretty creative breakers. People like No Index, I think, is one of them. Double D as well. I think there's a handful of like generally pretty creative breakers within the German scene, but you know, who knows if they're still entering or if they're still even wanting to be a part of the competitive circuit. I mean, as a creative breaker, you don't really necessarily have to rock up to these events, do you? Like, so outside of our Sweet Technique and Cool Kids Mob fans, I think everyone else on this top 16 is like more or less on the generic side. I think M17 has some good stuff, but I mean, isn't this just like like this guy's in a fucking wheelchair? Like, that's pretty sick, right? There you go. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this does a pretty good job of reflecting what some people see German society to be. Very disciplined, very rules-focused, and very obedient when it comes to following order and rules. And I think kind of goes to show within the breaking style. Everyone's very fundamentally sound, but no one is trying extremely hard to break rules or be wildly different from the rest. So you kind of get what you pay for, to be honest, with all of this stuff. But yeah, Red Bull Germany, you know, I can see how Phil Wizard said what he said. Now, I feel like at this Red Bull Cypher in Germany, we haven't looked at the prelims. Maybe I would be a bit interested to see the prelims as well, to see who sort of got robbed of a spot. Because, while Phil says that he sees a lot of Cool Kids clones or Sweet Technique clones, he is also sort of responsible for putting these people there in the first place. He is only one of 3 judges, but he does have a voice in who makes it through and who doesn't. So he is sort of gatekeeping Originality, and he's sort of curating, to be honest, this lineup of breakers at the German Cypher. Fuck it, let's look through the prelims and see if anyone was actually more interesting or if Phil was right. This might be a long one, so I might sift through this one first, and maybe I'll report back to see if there are any interesting breakers in this pre-selection. I think there's a few key moments where things started to change and Flipside started to have more influence on the scene. A few things in particular, I want to start here first. This clip of Migas at Groove Session in 2018. Healthy at the time, so I don't think he could do an actual breaking round. So instead they ended up playing this throwback clip of him at the event. Cool. First time in Europe, Migas Mullings. I think you can sort of have this as a point where things started to change for the European scene and people that sort of influenced the European scene. This battle, KML versus Migas in the hotel lobby, of course, fed the kids for ages. Spiders, waves, misdirection, all that stuff that is very popular now. Combinations, storytelling. It's objectively good art and good break-in, so you can see why a lot of people wanted to adopt this style afterwards. So now we kind of know what I would consider to be the start of all of these things changing. Groove Session 2018. Now the floor is set, and there's a few more events after this that sort of helped sculpt things. I think another event that happened after this was sort of when Robb started battling more with Sweet Technique. Here we have this battle at Russia. I remember I saw a lot of clips of this event going around. So obviously Migas had a lot of impact on these guys, and so with the influence of Migas on these guys sort of allows them to perform and make their mark in that region. So probably our first sightings of Robb here as maybe the first European disciple of this style of breaking. So now the seeds are starting to be planted, as you can see. So North America starting to make a comeback, USA and Canada sort of starting to become a bit more popular and a bit more influential on the world scene. Same thing, misdirection, power, sort of a effortless style. Flipside, Toronto, starting to have its first disciples in Europe in the form of Robb and Style Invaders. And the momentum sort of continues with Stripes at Groove Session a couple of years later. And I think by this point, these guys have sort of already set the stage and sort of already begun to influence the scope of the European scene. Again, Stripes, Sweet Technique were already kind of influential and kind of notorious in North America anyways. So to be honest, I don't think seeing Stripes at a US event back then was anything new. And I think Stripes is already starting to travel around the world. China, Australia, Southeast Asia, from about 2018 onwards. So Stripes is already kind of prolific, but it wasn't until this Groove Session era where he started to really start to rise in Europe. And I think after this highlight went live, I think everyone wanted a break like this. This style of breaking it's very alluring. It's very edgy, and I think it's sort of the answer to what Europe was missing over all those years. Edgy, raw, mysterious, to the point, all killer, no filler. I think there's a few more events as well. I want to say that this Menno versus Flayu practice battle probably fed the kids for ages too. So now Menno starts to plug himself into the equation as well. Obviously Menno having won God knows how many battles by then, but Menno joins the fray as well. Just look at a couple of clips here. Yep. So you have your same misdirection, your same artistry, same flow technique. Yeah, so by this point, I think the players of the game have already started to make themselves clear. Both ways, power, which is what everyone wants to do now. And, we can't be mad at everyone trying to do their power moves both ways. I think if people want to try copy the popular style, that's just what kids do. I mean, 15 to 18-year-old kids are very easy to influence, in my opinion, in terms of breaking style and breaking approach. And I think some kids just want to feel like they belong. And if they want to belong, just break like your hero. But on the other side, we have Amir and Phil, I think, doing their own sort of piece and making their piece of the puzzle. I want to rewind back as well to judging as well. So I know Phil talked about a lot of cool kids clones in Germany, but we also have to admit that as judges, I think a lot of people started to admit these clones past prelims and started to accept these clones starting to appear in battles. Once Amir dropped, I think a lot of people that started to try and break like Amir started to have more success as well. And I think I want to explain why this might be the case very soon. But first, let's look at some footage and let's see what these guys were up to around the same time period. So we have Flipside and then we have Amir establishing themselves as top dogs.
If you like what you're seeing, where you're from, and all these kind of things.
So Amir's starting to have his run this time as well, around 2020 to 2023. So now we have sort of the hot new style breaking that is unorthodox, yet speedy, yet aggressive, yet edgy, yet rather formidable. Okay, so now we're starting to paint the picture here, right? If everyone can see what's going on. So more artistic and creative, angsty approach to breaking, which I think a lot of people resonated with at the time. I think by this point I'm missing footwork. I want to see some good tech and good footwork styles. I don't think any of these guys are known particularly for their nice footwork or footwork approach. Let's have a look at this battle that happened the year after as well, during Amir's run. I think this battle as well fed a lot of kids. Phil Wizard versus Amir. I think this is sort of like the pinnacle of competitive breaking at the time. We have like very athletic yet very somewhat unique and interesting creative styles too. And then after this, I'll dial back to why I think a lot of clones started appearing after this. So you can definitely see now what's being rewarded in the scene. Creativity sort of being more unexpected, and now everyone's approach to the dominant winning style sort of follows suit. Creative, dynamic, and now if everyone wants to be dynamic, unique and surprising, then guess what? No one is dynamic, unique and surprising after all, right? So now everyone is starting to become cut from the same cloth, and now everyone is starting to find or take movement approaches from these people. I think a lot of people would say that, or a lot of normies would say that following approaches or following trends is actually kind of fun. Like in fashion, maybe following a trend is kind of fun. Feels nice to fit in. And I think a lot of creative breakers or a lot of wildly creative breakers back then would definitely argue and tell you that being creative back then was a curse. I mean, people were definitely getting shit on for being artistic back then, as a lot of people can attest. Havakoro or whoever was coming out of Texas, Miami back then. Circus runways and that circus style was getting shit on, but now it's the popular style. So mans were ahead of their time back then. So here's my theory as to why a lot of clones, I think, started to become more popular after the fact, after all these guys had their runs. So imagine you're in a judge's seat and you see someone like Amir come to life, right? You've never heard of him and he's doing a style of breaking that you've never seen before. He's throwing some ideas at you that you never thought were possible. So when someone sees someone artistic like Amir and they see someone breaking like Amir the year after, I think as a judge you can say, look, this guy is trying to also follow suit and present something new. And because he's trying to present something new, I believe he might have the same pot of gold that Amir might have, which means that I have more of a reason to put him through to the next round than I do this other guy who is appearing a bit more generic at the time. I think after the fact, judges kind of wanted to see more of Amir, right? Liked seeing him win. People liked seeing Phil win. People liked seeing Stripes, Flayo win. So of course it's only natural to assume that people want to see more trends, but I do feel like our scene is very easily influenced, and if I'm being honest, I think our scene kind of likes the trends. And if I'm being honest with you, I think this approach of breaking whatever we have now is more interesting, and I think it's just a lot more cool and a bit more convincing than maybe what was popular before. People just want to see that pot of gold, And I think the clones kind of have more of a shot of showing that they have a unique approach and a unique take on popular breaking than other people. People just want to see more gold and want to see more moments. So that's why I think a lot of clones started becoming more popular and more influential as the years went on. You can see now we're starting to see sort of the impact of this style of breaking now. Up here I have Geordie, Lotus, and I would consider these guys to be disciples of this current wave of breaking. Palm moves, misdirection, thread combos, parallax view style. I think my hot take is that people like trends. Actually, that's not a hot take at all. I think that's actually a very cold take. But, you know, if I'm being honest, I think we actually kind of all like to see this style of breaking as judges, as spectators. A lot of people's perceptions of what is considered to be unique and original are all starting to become shared across the world. Now we have guys who are breaking like Amir in India, in China. We have people who are trying to break like Robb in Brazil, in Canada, in Japan, and now the influence is starting to spread. And I guess this is another thing, like I was saying before. As a young, impressionable kid, you want to be accepted in the world. No one wants to be given shit by their homies for breaking different. So what do? You follow someone who is relevant and you follow suit so that maybe it's a bit more safer for you to express yourself. I think, you know, this is a bit of a side topic, but even the normies know, right? It's not even in breaking, it's sort of art and fashion in general.
Gen Z's obsession with performance is convoluting the idea of art and culture, and it's going to lead to a downfall of individuality and self-expression.
I think if we want to see difference and change within breaking, we have to dial it back to beyond breaking, and we have to sort of ask ourselves deep in our hearts what we desire as human beings. And I think this sort of leads to my next point here. So it's beyond breaking. I think to have an original voice in breaking, you have to have an original voice and approach in your life. I think this is more than just going out and like climbing a mountain or going on a hike and sort of finding yourself. I think you sort of have to calculate all of your experiences in life, calculate sort of the people, the art that you like, and then sort of have those speak through your craft. I think Amir probably talks about it a lot, but, you know, when people ask him what influences him, he doesn't necessarily state that he's influenced by other breakers. He says that he's influenced by films, influenced by visual art, influenced by 3D animation. The problem is that when Amir says to go consume other pieces of art, people end up consuming the same pieces of art. Amir says he likes video art and 3D animation, so now everyone likes video art and 3D animation. So I think even these days, it's not only hard to be an original breaker, I think it's even just hard to have an original lived experience. Whoa. So I think this is more just of a dilemma of culture in general, as opposed to something that is going on within our scene. I think everything that we experience in our breaking scene is just sort of a product of everything that's going on in our society. So now my problem with the current state of things is that everyone's perception of originality and artistry is now the same. Not only this, but the agenda of what is considered original and unique is being pushed by the same sponsored dancers. So it's kind of hard for me to subscribe to what they have to say. Everyone's take on originality is more or less the same. It's sort of a derivative of what Amir and Phil Wizard were doing years ago. It's dynamic, it's thread heavy, it's combo centric, it's somewhat unorthodox, and now everyone's sort of being fit and molded into this same box and idea of originality. And it's easy to do so because people who follow trends are rewarded because they are enjoyed by the judges, and the judges want to see more of what they have to offer. I think people would rather take a risk on someone who is trying to copy something currently in the hopes of spawning something new and exciting, rather than going with someone who's playing it safe and someone who has sort of a better grasp on who they are as a person. Truthfully, I think people like seeing trends, and people like seeing their own ideas be challenged, even if the people challenging them are more or less the same. I think this is just what happens in culture. I mean, ideas get old, new kids come in and try to flip the scene on its head, and then we have the subsequent mess afterwards. I'm sure this isn't the first time it's happened in the breaking scene. I think a lot of us are just experiencing it for the first time within this current generation. And I think as long as we subscribe to what Red Bull sponsored athletes and professional breakers have to say about originality, then I think our perception of originality ends up getting misconstrued. I think as long as we look towards these mediums as our answers, I call it our dark triad of breaking, Red Bull, Instagram, and Olympics, I don't think we can ever find what we want. We will not be finding originality at the Red Bull competition. We will not be finding original breaking on Instagram, nor will we find anything that is affiliated with the Olympics or the Olympic style of competitive breaking. Our answers are not here. I think a lot of the original breakers are at home, or you may be able to find them at your local practice. I think every practice session around the world has at least one guy who's trying to do something genuinely original and true to themselves. So honestly, I think a lot of us just need to log off and need to sort of escape the influence of this dark triangle. I think as an original breaker, you have absolutely no reason to be affiliated with any of these. And I genuinely think that original breaking comes from having original lived experience, which is just simply expressed through means of dance. That's all I have to say. I think there's a lot more that can be covered, but I kind of wanted to sort of start with the tip of the iceberg and with breaking over the last couple of years, where we are now and where I think we're going. So if I'm going to keep it 1,000 with you guys, I don't think this style of breaking or this influence that Flipside has had over the past couple of years is going to stop anytime soon. Style Invaders is doing the round with their workshop series, and I think this is only going to continue as we move forward. I think in the next 5 or so years, expect to see more of that Flipside Toronto influence, and be prepared to see more of the same. All the original breakers are going to be at home, chilling on the couch, and get ready for more clones in Red Bull. Thank you so much for watching and giving me the time of your day, and I hope this made you think about something or think about the state of originality in breaking.